So my name is Yrjö. Here's some facts about me. I work in the company called Digiaalinen asuntokauppa Dias. This is me, and this is the company I work for. So the pitch is that we enable real estate and housing trading in Finland so that you can do it wherever you like. You don't need to go to the bank. So that's the pitch. And Dias is pretty much built on top of Clojure, running in Azure with Kubernetes and PostgreSQL. So we like Clojure, so we're basically full of Clojure microservices under the hood. And speaking of the hood, I'm also having a podcast which is all about under the hood or below the surface. It's called Koodia pinnan alla. So me and an ex-colleague called Markus Hjort, we have launched a few years ago this Finnish podcast, which is about everything else except front-end development. So please check that out. And well, maybe I'll do some live coding and especially show how the REPL works. So because that's, I think, the most important thing about Clojure and the workflow, how you use it. But before I start, how many of you, have you heard about Clojure? Who has heard about Clojure? Excellent. So how many of you have developed something in Clojure? Even like, woo, yeah, awesome. There's people who have tried out Clojure. So I'll just briefly say what Clojure is. It's well, you have heard it, you know that. So let's say like it's a Lisp, and I could my idea was that I would just start coding something very simple from pretty much scratch, and I'm not gonna maybe talk too much about the syntax things, and I think you'll just grab it on the way. And I don't think the idea is that how far I get with this thing. I think the thing is like, how do I do it? Like the journey we can do here together is the core of my presentation. So please ask a lot, because then you'll get more out of it. So if there's something that you don't understand, please ask, then I can try to explain. And if you ask really hard questions, that would be nice, then I'll see how much I really know about Clojure. So this is REPL here. It comes from the words read, eval, print, loop. So it's pretty much in the core of Lisp languages that you can develop stuff and try out stuff in the REPL. And other languages have it too, but you'll soon see the difference between Clojure and other languages. Actually, I have here this map called me, which I just wrote. So I'll just show around that you can, for example, get things out of the map by using the keywords. So I can say work and use that work as a function, and then it gets stuff out of there. And it was really nice that Timo went through about the kind of basics of functional programming so that I don't have to. And you were talking about the pipes in F#. I've never done F#, but I think a bit similar concept in Clojure are the threading macros, which I will be using a lot. So I'll just go through. Basically, it's like putting the functions other way around. So I can first have the data, and then the function, and then what comes out of this function is piped to the next function. So company, then I get the string out of there, and then I can say, for example, count, and it tells me that there's so many characters there. The other way around would, of course, be going I don't know, company, work, me. But you can maybe see that the first one is more intuitive and easier to read. So this is some simple things about Clojure. And also always the first, all of the stuff here are lists. Lists begin with the parents, and the first thing in the list is always the kind of function that is evaluated, and then the rest is the parameters. And I'll open my source code here. So what I've done here, where do I start? It's almost scratch. I used one of the Clojure build tools, which is called Liningen, and I opened a template, which is like a simple web app or simple web API template. And then what I made the first steps there was that I just upgraded some libraries and made a bit plumbing so that it would work out of the box. But basically, I haven't done any development there yet. So if I go to the REPL here, it has the source code loaded here. And what it does is basically it compiles it to Java bytecode, which is then run on the JVM. So I'm having a JVM running on the background all the time. And this is IntelliJ IDEA, by the way. So it's one of the editors that support Clojure. I think these days almost all editors support Clojure, and the main thing that you need in order to be able to develop Clojure is to have a plugin that basically gives you REPL, and then you're all set up. So what I can do now is that I have here, for example, start server, a function there. So let's start my server, and this is. Oh, does it work? Yeah, it works. So it started an HTTP server, which is of course impure and has side effects, but I'm not about the kind of, what's functional, like pure functional. I'm not about getting things done here. You can do in Clojure, I mean, the whole thing is basically the other way around if you compare with C#, because all the things basically guide you into doing things mostly the pure way, but of course you can do practical things like impure stuff as well. But let's then look at the browser. I have, I think, now here, hello world. So that's a good start. And how does it work? It's basically having a few libraries there which do, for example, here's the root. So there's some kind of data structures going on. There's vectors which have the root that is then bound, that if you make a GET request to the root, then there's a handler called home handler, and this is like a name that is bound to this function here. And this function is actually still pure because it always returns the same value, and it doesn't actually use the request parameter. So I can also try out home handler. What does it do? Yeah, it says that I have wrong number of arguments, so I need to give something because it needs one argument. Yeah, but yeah, it always gives me this status 200 hello world. Now we could start developing something here.